Hi, I'm William Stewart, co-founder of Teleios. Welcome back to our verse-by-verse study on the book of Matthew. We're in chapter 22, where the leaders of Israel are trying to entrap Jesus in the days before his resurrection, his terrible death and glorious resurrection. So far, the Herodians have failed, and then the Sadducees have failed. Now it's the Pharisees' turn. So let's go to the text. Verse 34. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, they gathered together. And one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him and saying, so tempting here, prosmos in the original Greek, really is tempt or test. They're testing him, trying to get him to say something controversial that will either cause him to be arrested or the crowds that are favoring him right now of the people in Jerusalem would turn away from him. And so remember, the Pharisees they're really the experts in the law. They were quite numerous. They held a lot of religious and political power. They probably were the paramount group in Judea holding religious power, even though they had a lot of competition. Master, again, the Pharisees said, the lawyer said, this is a bit of a joke. They did not consider him his master. Plus, at the same time, they're degrading him because he's really God. So they're getting two punches in one word. He knows they're lying about considering him as master. Plus, they don't recognize him. Which is the great commandment of the law being the Mosaic law. Jesus said to them, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all their heart, with all their soul, and with all their mind." Okay, so this comes from Deuteronomy 6:5. The word here for love, agape love, is the unique, well, it's not unique. It was not used that much in the original Greek in the secular sense, but the Bible took this word and really gave it its meaning to mean a giving, godly love, a love based on our obedience to God. 1 John 5:2 and 3. It really took over the concept of love and is the only word I know of for now in modern Greek, whereas they used to have multiple words. This is the first and great commandment. And the second, so he's getting a bonus here. He didn't ask for the second commandment. Like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Plusion in the original Greek means neighbor, someone near. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So the law being the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, the prophets being the prophetic books, the major and the minor prophets. So what did this mean? That the lawyer, it's not recorded what he did, but there's no more conversation after this. So the lawyer tried to back him into a corner to say something controversial. The Pharisees were the expert in the law, the Mosaic law. I think they were thinking if they just got him to say something that some of them would disagree with in terms of the greatest commandment, surely you can make an argument on multiple greatest commandments, perhaps from their view, they would start an argument that would perhaps degrade his authority. But what he did, he took the argument past their question. It was brilliant and answered something that they should have been asking instead. And this is a point that God has made in the Old Testament and now in the gospel times and Christ, that the Jews who had the law and thus all the advantages of knowing God did not move past the legalistic interpretation of do this and do that to a heart that loved God and feared God and had mercy on the people around them. This is shown by the quoting of Isaiah 6:6 in Matthew 9 and Matthew 12, and it is noted in a number of other places in the Old Testament as well. So the there's a sense that the Israelites never matured to obtain that heart that he wanted them to have. I think that this was part of the reason for the exile, that they did not regard the people who were poor, who were needy. They were disobedient to God as well, and but had a cold heart, a heart of stone, as Ezekiel 37 says, 36, one of those two chapters. Sorry, at the end, and really did not measure up to what God wanted. I think Christ, by saying this, is reminding them, to the Pharisees in particular, who were so legalistic and so dependent on thinking that they were righteous because they did the law and then their own extra laws in the Talmud, that they were somehow righteous. And he's saying you're falling way short in the conversation. Okay, and then next time, Jesus throws right back at them another question and turning the tables. So I hope you'll join me for that. What have we learned today? That God wanted the Jews to have a heart for other people and for him of love. And it wasn't just about the law. We know now as Christians that can only occur by coming to salvation by faith alone in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That gives us the regeneration by the Spirit, the indwelling of the Spirit. It's by these things we're able to obey and serve and love Romans 6, and as I mentioned before, 1 John 5, verses 2 and 3. Thanks for joining me today. I'll look forward to seeing you as we wrap up this great chapter in the next video.